afternoon. Can anyone hear me?
Yes,
Okay, wonderful. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Happy Sunday.
Just turning this down a bit.
Let me get my audio settings kind of fixed up a little bit here. There we go. How's your Sunday going so far?
I'm good. We just started our vacation. We drove up last night, so
Oh,
I'm
nice.
I'm joining you from Cape Cod.
Oh, how is it?
It's cool. I mean, we got in late last night, so everything was dark and foggy and rainy. But today is sunny and it's 70 something degrees. It's like end of September. What?
Nice. Oh, that's so good. How long are you guys going to be there?
We'll be here for the week, so
Fun.
yeah.
Enjoy. Well, hopefully you have good weather. Anything planned in particular, or just kind of relaxing?
Well, I've never been to this area, so we already went to see a lighthouse this morning. We'll probably
Oh,
do the
cool.
whole like Plymouth Rock thing or something, and then get some seafood. And there's a couple of friends up here, so have some
Nice.
dinners. Nothing too crazy, just a bit of a get out of the city for a bit.
I was gonna say vacation is vacation. You
Yeah,
literally you could stay wherever you are and never leave the house or whatever you're
very,
renting the whole
yeah,
time and it would still be great, at least in my
yeah,
book.
yeah, absolutely.
Good, good, good. Well, we're giving folks just a couple minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
Usually people kind of take a couple minutes to get all the audio and everything started up. Well, thanks so much for joining us on your vacation, no less.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. This was such a fun book. Particularly for me. I tend to read stuff that's so serious and it's stuff that's really good, but then in the end I'm like, man, that was really like heavy.
Heavy. Yeah,
I need a couple of days to just, kind of get back to like a happy place. So
yeah, yeah.
this was a nice change for me. Hey, Ashley, I can see I don't see you, but I can see that you're on here. Kiana, hello.
What about me?
Oh, there you are. Hello. I can hear you, but I can't see you. Do you have your video on?
Can you see me now?
No, not unless maybe you're invisible. There you
Oh,
are.
there you are.
And Ashley, I think, is working today, so she doesn't have her video, but
Yeah.
she can hear us.
Hi,
Perfect.
Ashley.
Hi, Ashley. Thank you. I'm glad you loved it.
Ashley is always so nice to join us. She's typically at work on Sundays when we have the meetings, but she's always nice to join in her busy schedule. So boom, boom, boom. Okay, well, what we'll do is we'll let people kind of start coming in because I want to give everybody a chance to chat and for us to really kind of dig into this. Xio, I'll let you sort of introduce yourself, but I first want to give you a little bit of insight. We're very sort of fluid here, right? There's no sort of structure to it. We kind of just talk and everybody gets their ideas out, questions. Obviously, anybody has questions, feel free to jump in and ask them. But we're low key. It's Sunday, we're relaxing, just chatting about books. So if you want to just take a couple minutes and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, that may be a fun way to start off.
Sure. Well, I'm Xio Axelrod. I'm from Philadelphia. I've been published, I think coming December will be 7 years since I published my first novella. Never thought I would like write for a living. Like that was not my thing. I grew up in the music industry, so I've been in and out of music my entire life. And I was actually like working as a touring musician when I wrote my first sort of thing. And even with no intent to publish, it was just something I was doing on my blog on Tumblr. And people kept asking for more and more and more. And I kept writing more. And then I had like this huge thing and didn't know what to do with it. And a friend of mine who was in and trying to get published and was in writing organizations was like, you should take this and try to get it published. And I was like, why would I do that? Like, I'm not an author. So that's kind of where it started back in 2013. And then it took me another year or so to go, maybe I could do this, so I did. And here we are. I think I'm at book 9. I think Falling Star or Girl with Stars in Her Eyes is book 9. Or title 9, I should say, because some of them were novellas. But this is like, a tome. This was a big, thick book, right? So yeah, so here I am, and like I said, I grew up in Philly, so I'm a Philly girl. I'm not there right now. I'm on the Cape Cod area right now for the first time. But yeah, that's me. I'm pretty down to earth t-shirt kind of girl.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, it was interesting because when I first picked up the book and I saw that it had a lot to do with music, I sort of thought, oh, okay, well, this is kind of like a love story, but music will be maybe a little tiny piece of it, and it'll kind of dip its toes in it. But I was so impressed by, I was like, and that's why I like started to look up a little more about your bio, because I was like, this author she must be like in the music, like for real, because like this doesn't just sort of, scratch the surface. There's really a lot here. And
Yeah.
so I just kind of find that fascinating. Can you talk a little bit more about sort of how long you were, or maybe you are still kind of in music as well as writing? Because I'd be interested to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, my dad is a songwriter, producer, arranger, performer, and all that stuff. Successful one, and so I did grow up in studios and standing on the wings, on stage wings and stuff, and watching shows and hanging out with people who that was their life. So I grew up around a lot of celebrity, a lot of success in the industry, and it didn't occur to me that I would take that path. It was just sort of a thing that the family that we did. What I mean? Music was sort of a thing that you do. And I even like went away from it. And my dad didn't want any of us to go into music because he has like idea, his opinions about the music industry. But he was like, do anything else but that. So I did acting, I did like I did everything, but it was always there. Like I was always in the choirs, always at the musicals and all that stuff. So it was always there. So it took a while for me to come back and go, I guess this is what I'm supposed to be doing. But yeah, like I think my first recording professionally was when I was like 4 or 5 years old. He pulled me in because they needed like a little kid voice on a project, so I had the headphones were too big, and they had to like rig them to sit on my head, stuff like that. So yeah, it's literally been my entire life. And I didn't even start out writing when I started writing fiction about music. Like my first book is just sort of a Christmas or like a holiday vacation rom-com that takes place in Scotland, has nothing to do with music or performing arts at all. And it took a minute for people to go like, but wait, don't you have a lot of like music stuff that you could talk about? And I was like, oh yeah. So it slowly started to make its way into my stuff. And then the girl would start Squishy. I call this book because the title's so long. Squishy is like the culmination of like all of my musical experience sort of poured into this series, So like everything that I've been through, that I've seen other people go through in my family and friends and associates and stuff like that, sort of showing up on these pages.
Oh, wow. Wonderful. Wonderful. And if other folks have questions, Pete, please feel free to jump in. Ashley, I know you are on chat, so I'll keep my chat open in case you have specific questions as well. So I'd love to hear, it sounds like, you've pulled onto your musical roots and writing this book, but I'd love to hear kind of how the idea for Tony started, the main character. I mean, I think she's just so multifaceted. There's so much in her past. We kind of see her grow up and make life choices and really kind of find really kind of a whole nother family, maybe the family she didn't have. So I'm curious as to how you started the process, right? Did you decide with Tony first and then the others, or kind of how you got to the idea for the book?
Well, the idea behind the series really came from two separate ideas. I had Tony and Seb's childhood friends growing up in poverty, kind of having this pact to get out together, musical journey kind of thing. And it wasn't even a romance necessarily. It was just this like journey of these two people and her, of course. And then I had Lily's story, which I can't say anything about, but Lily's story, which was like lead singer of a band. She's a statuesque, blonde, gorgeous, like quintessential whatever, that people look at her and they make assumptions. They look at you and they go, oh, well, you're just empty-headed, you're whatever. But she has a lot of baggage, a lot of stuff going on. And so I was like, that story and this story, how can I marry those two? When my publisher came to me and said, we want you to write something for us, what do you got? And I was like, well, I have this idea for this all-female rock band, and this is happening and this and this. And they were like, okay, so I was able to marry those two worlds. But yeah, it was really I wanted to write the story of a lot of musicians, a lot of creative people I know, actors as well, who come from broken backgrounds. They have a lot of damage, they have a lot of like emotional trauma, and they work through that trauma through their creativity. And Tony obviously has some issues with her mom, she has some issues with her dad, she has all kinds of abandonment issues and stuff. And she sees her mom pursue something so doggedly that she's willing to walk away from her child and from like a life with her, whatever, to pursue it. And so she doesn't want anything to do with that. She's like, I love music. It's in my blood. Obviously, this is what I'm meant to do, but not that way.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, she has this in her mind that she has one path. And I think running into Seb again, meeting the Lilies and finding out there's another way to do it. You can have a little bit of that and a little bit of this and make your own path. But she's it's like a dichotomy. It's like either this or that. There's no gray area for her when we meet her,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed her character. So I'm curious if you had to kind of describe this book. Would you say it is a romance? Would you say it's sort of a, I don't know, musical fiction? Like, I'd love to hear your spin on sort of how you would categorize, and maybe there's more than one category.
Yeah, it's a great question because even when we were talking about, because they have to market the book, and
Yeah, yep, yep.
where does it go on the
Yep.
shelf? And I've written romance. I've always written what I call love stories. I rarely do an HEA, a happily ever after. I'll do a happy for now, where they're like, okay, they're together and there's some future, but they're not necessarily like engaged or no baby or whatever like that. So like they're just like in a place in their relationship where they know they're going to move forward together. And the big thing I was talking about that I wrote on my blog, it was like this 200,000 word behind the scenes Hollywood story called Falling Stars. And it was about it was a couple who worked together on a television show. He was married, he was in this really toxic marriage, and she was like an up and coming ingenue, and they fell in love on the show. And that's taboo, like that's totally taboo in romance. I was like, this is not a romance, So like I've always sort of danced around the edges of what the genre is. And so I think with this one, I'm telling a love story, but it's like multi-pronged. So you have the love story between Tony and Seb. You have the love story between Tony and her potential. You have the love story between Tony and the band, because she does fall in love with this band and everything that they represent. So I think it is about found family. I think it is about friendship. I think it is about self-discovery, as well as fulfilling this heart desire that's been lingering for like 20 years, 15 years, whatever it is. So like, I think it's a multi-pronged love story. That's what
Yeah. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I'm sorry, Hayes, did you have a question?
I do. So first of all, thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate you joining us. I'm super excited to see you. But so now my question is more about Sebastian, which I found very, very interesting. I like how you put it, he and Tony together, but I also like how you mentioned that he went into the bank account and took some money and just kind of jetted. What made you think of him like that, having him as a character, as someone that did something like that?
So Seb, and I don't know if I didn't. So Seb for me is a broken bird. Okay, he has suffered a lot of trauma, and I don't go into a lot of the trauma on the page because I had a lot of like backstory and stuff in there. We were like, okay, we got to take some of this out. You know what I mean? But his relationship with his father is very, very toxic, and his father is a really toxic person. And Seb sees himself as someone who is, if not just like him right now, has the potential to become like him. And that's his worst nightmare. So when he gets into the fight, and I guess we're all spoilers. This is like a spoiler zone, right? So okay.
Yeah. So I've done a little synopsis on the entire thing. So everything is fair game.
Okay, cool. So when when he finally tells her, when they're at the Electric Unicorn, he finally tells her what happened that night that he left, the fight scared the shit out of him. Like he saw so much of his father in him that night that he was like, I can't. What I got to get out of here. I got to leave. She'll be better off without me. Like I am the worst person in the world next to this man. So he just takes his little share of the money, and he says, okay, this, because if he was the complete and total jerk, he would have just taken it all, right? So I was like, he's still thinking of her. He's thinking of her the entire time. I don't want to be around her because I'm going to hurt her eventually. I want her to have what she needs to get out of it. She's not going to understand right now. Why he didn't leave a note, I don't know. But he could have been just he was really, really, really messed up that night, to the point that he left with pretty much nothing. Because he says, when I had like t-shirt and some jeans and like a backpack, and that was pretty much it. Like he just jetted immediately. So it was part self-preservation also, but also like he thought he was protecting her. and staying away from her all that time. He thought he was protecting her from himself.
So I thought I read also, I thought in there for some reason, I'm trying to recall, did he kind of, when he left, did he kind of sleep around anywhere? You know what I'm saying? Like, he didn't really have anywhere to go per se,
Yeah, he did.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what
So he was couch surfing. And
Right.
you know, again, this goes back to musicians and actors and stuff that I've known. Like people from, especially from people from small towns, they don't know people in the big cities. Like people who move to New York or they move to LA or whatever, and they're like, I don't know where I'm staying. I met some guy at a club and he was like, hey, I have a couch. You can stay here for a week. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. It's that life until you get your first gig or until you get your waiter gig or whatever it is that's going to give you some money to move on to that next step. But it's a really weird sort of like nomadic existence that you have in the beginning there.
So it's very interesting. You say, I'm really happy that you know a lot of stars. As that, so this is how some of these regular people become stars, right? They just hang in there until something good comes.
Yeah.
So I can just jump now and hope. I mean,
Hey.
there's a possibility that I could just get up and leave everything and just grab a bag and go somewhere and hope that, you know.
Yeah, I mean, people do. Like, there's one. Oh, I'm trying to think. There's a couple of musicians. One of them, I think, is Jewel and Beck. I think they both lived in their cars for a while when they struck out to do whatever they were going to do. Like they didn't have any place to stay. They lived out of their cars. Like people do amazing things when you're driven like that. Like it's not me. I need a bed. Like, but having said that, I did go to the UK and sleep on a couch for 3 weeks when I first moved there because I didn't have my own place. So you do things when you're driven and you're young and stupid. You know what I mean?
Right.
And, you know what I mean? And you're like, yeah, I'm gonna make it. I have my guitar. I have my 5 pairs of underwear. I'm gonna go. You know what I mean? Like, what else do you need, right? You have nothing to tie you down. So they go do that thing. And so yeah, Seb was like, this is really dangerous. I'm gonna get hurt, or he's gonna get hurt, or Tony's gonna get hurt. I need to get out of here. And he didn't, you know, he's from a tiny town, doesn't know anybody. So he just went somewhere with his good looks and his little bit of talent and probably did some bartending or bar backing or whatever and did whatever he had to do, you know.
Okay. Okay.
Tony, or Seb is a very polarizing character I've found in some of the conversations I've had with people. They're like, oh, I didn't like him. I mean, I know she does, but I'm like, poor Seb. I didn't give him enough love on the page.
I mean, the way you describe Seb, he sounds like he's really nice looking. You know, especially the way Tony, you know, talks about him. Like, okay,
but he's not arrogant.
Right.
You know, he doesn't even know like that he's as good looking as he is. He doesn't like. He knows people like him for whatever reason. He's like, okay, I can work with that, but he's not like, well, I'm, you know, he's not.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what I liked about. I think that's one of the things that I did like about Seb. Like you said, you could tell that he wasn't like throwing the way he looked, you know, like at people. Yeah. He went with the flow, like he's just a regular person. So that's one of the.
Tony, he believes in Tony's talent more than his own, and she believed in his talent more than her own. And then when he left, she didn't have anybody to believe in herself. You know, she didn't believe in herself, and didn't have, and her dad didn't believe in her. She had a great time at school, so she was kind of like, well, I know I'm good, but I don't know how good I am, but I'm just going to do what I'm going to do. And he went the other way. He was like, well, I'm not good enough to be in the front, so I'll do songwriting, I'll do managing, I'll do behind the scenes kind of stuff. So they're both in the same sort of boat that way. Yeah.
Right. So another question I have now, Tony's mother, you did talk about Tony's mother, or am I just imagining it? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know, I thought so. She's the one that did the night shows, you know, whatever, and kind of left Tony with dad, right? I mean, with well, I guess dad.
Yeah.
On the bus. Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Tony's mom is just an ambitious person. She's got talent. She's a beautiful woman. She likes she's enjoyed being a big fish in a small pond for a while, but she's always felt she was destined for more. You know, and every time more dangles itself in front of her, and it's usually in the form of some guy who just wants to sleep with her, who has like, oh yeah, I could put you on the marquee. She falls for it every time, you know. So this time Tony was old enough for her to send her off and say, I'm gonna shoot my shot, you know.
So was it really Tony's dad that she dropped him off with? I guess it really was. Okay.
Yeah, that's her dad. Yeah.
I'd
Didn't
love
make
to.
it too traumatic, but yeah, that's her father.
I know. Well, I'm interested. I think one of the other authors we had on, there was a character that didn't seem very redeeming, and I love to hear how we kind of get to that. But as we guys were
Mhm.
talking about her mother, Mary, I really thought when she came back, I was like, you know what? She started off
Reformed.
with like, like, oh gosh, she's back for like money. But then I thought like maybe underneath there was still something there that she would come back, she would redeem herself and say, I did all these things, it was terrible. Here's why, or I want to make it better. So I'm
Yeah.
interested how you got to the decision to really just make Mary, pretty bad character, right? Like she really didn't have many redeeming qualities. So I'm curious how you got to that point, and if that was supposed to sort of, it didn't mean something more, was supposed to represent something more.
Mary, I didn't, when I was writing Tony's parents, they aren't great people when she's young. And I knew that I wanted one of them to turn a corner and I wanted one of them to not turn that corner. And I played around. This is like before even the concept of this book, when I was just writing Tony as a character and her backstory and stuff. Everything was flipped. It was her father that she lived with, and it was her mother that she got sent to.
Oh, interesting.
And I was like, that's so cliche, right? Because it's always the mom. It's always the mom that picks up the pieces, right? So I was like, okay, I've known ambitious women who all they cared about is whatever their career was, like everything else came secondary. And that's not how we're supposed to be as women. We're supposed to be all about the nurturing and all about the family, but there are women who are not like that, And so I was like, I wanted to write someone who was like that, like a real ambitious person. She's not a bad person, she's just not a good person.
Yeah. Yep.
And she, I think the thing that hurts Tony the most is finding out that she has this family now. She's like, but I thought that she in her mind said, okay, well, my mom is just not a family person, and that's why this happened. But when she finds out she's married and has a son, she's like, well, why didn't that happen with me? You know what I mean? And why didn't you bring me into that family? So that for her is the end. I think before that, she was holding on to hope that her mom would come back and say, I'm really sorry, or whatever it is. And when she comes back, she knows immediately that that's not why she's there, because of the way that she shows up. And I mean, she's just not a great person. So I wanted to write someone who was, I think it's a very realistic, real world situation.
Yeah, that scene, I think the way in which you wrote it was just devastating. Like you could just feel how bad Tony felt. Seb runs in and he's like, oh my God, she's going through this. Especially since like that was like, that scene was just like, oh come on, like Tony, give her a break. Can somebody just do right by Tony and her family? Like, come on.
That's why it was so much fun writing Mo after that.
Yeah.
Because it's not like a kumbaya situation, but he's very much like, okay, there are things that your mom didn't tell you, which we still don't know.
Yeah.
But I think his relationship with Minx, with the guitar, we still don't know. And somebody was like, you got to write a prequel. You got to write Mo and Mary's story. And I was like, maybe I'll write a novella or something. The backstory. But I wanted to give him more depth in the same way that I gave Mary, but her depth is just not nice to be in.
Yeah.
To give him like, I may not have been the kind of father you wanted me to be, but I did the best that I could do given the circumstances, kind of thing. Like he wasn't doing it to be mean. He just thought, firm hand, sort of, I don't know what to do with the little girl, kind of, he's just like didn't know what to do. You know what I mean? Like, bad guy, just,
Yeah. No, I thought it was interesting how, I love the fact that he came back at the end and he was at the show and it was like, okay, he's like you said, he's not a bad guy, maybe just didn't know how to be a father. But that she had that.
He was also angry, very angry. And he took, and parents take it out on their kids. Especially a kid you don't really know, and how much is she like the mom that he doesn't like anymore? You know what I mean? Like, so she probably looks like her, and he's like, every time he looked at her, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that happens in life. You know what I mean? And so he's like, okay, I'll give you what you need to survive, but I'm not going to go any further than that, kind of thing. So.
Yeah. You have a roof over your head, right? Why aren't you satisfied? But why do you need anything else?
Exactly. Yeah. She's like, hello, I need but.
There's so many like backstories and so much more info. Like I'd love to know more about, like you said, like Seb and his dad's background, about Mary and Mo. And Mo sounds like he was into music and has some talent. I'd love to know like what ultimately happens with Tony and Seb. Like, are they happily ever after, or mostly happily ever? Like, there's so much that I'm like,
Yeah, 'cause
man,
it-
I
it
wish
just said they're
I
happy
wish.
for now, right?
Right.
Yeah. Well, I
So
wanted to leave some of it is
Yeah.
going to play out over the next 3 books,
Yeah.
especially with Tony and her mom. Her mom will pop up again. There's some Seb's father stuff in there, but like all of the women in the band have histories,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And the people around them have history. So all of that stuff is woven throughout the journey that the Lilies take to their HEA. as a band.
Good. Well, I'm happy to hear that. So I'm looking at, I'm trying to, how many pages was this book? It was I don't know, 440 or so. And when I first picked the book up, I was like, this is a monster of a book. What is going to be in here? Right. And I was so pleasantly surprised, because I find that sometimes with larger books, there's parts where you're like, yeah, that part could have been completely out, right? Like we didn't really need, like we didn't, but I really thought all of this was really substance. It was all really good stuff. I love the way that you charted Tony and Seb's journey, right? It was that, because I think we've all been there, right? Where you're sort of like, it's, is it going to work? Is it not going to work? And you sort of start making those steps towards maybe it's going to be something, but you're still not sure. And the fact that we kind of got to see kind of both sides of it, kind of how Seb was looking at it, and also how Tony was looking at the situation. So I'm curious how you, I think reading romance, and I don't read a ton of it because I think I've found, I don't know, I think making the romance feel real and not sort of, I don't know, like bubblegum, right? Like it felt very real. Like these are things that I've experienced. I know people who have these kind of relationships where they just can't quite, or there's these big things that happened in the past that they've not addressed. And maybe had they addressed it, maybe things have turned out a little bit differently. So I'm curious as to, as you were writing their kind of love story within the bigger picture, what you kind of drew on to really make it feel so real, make it feel like these were characters who like really leapt off the pages, and that you may know people who kind of have this kind of like, gosh, are you guys going to get it together, or like what? Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah, I mean, we, like you said, we've all been there. We know people who have, so definitely drew from that. But like, I wanted, one of the things that I read a lot of romance. I didn't read romance until I started writing it, so I've had to catch up. I've played a lot of catch up. And yeah, I think it gets a bad rap sometimes because people think it's formulaic or whatever, or that it's very like shallow. And I think you find that in all genres. You find books that are kind of like just scratch the surface and they don't go any further. I think in romance has a tendency to dig deep into relationships, into characters, more than some other genres. Like we really get to the heart, like literally the heart of people, and how they can love themselves enough to allow themselves to be loved. You know what I mean? So I wanted to take this pain that Tony and Seb had from this night that he left, and all that stuff, and put it into context as they were teenagers, right? And she says to him, we were kids, like, why are you still beating yourself up? Like, she's still angry because they had this whole plan, and she had to, like, it took her more years to get out of Borden than she wanted, and all this other stuff. And she never heard from him again. I think that's the thing that really pissed her off the most, is that she never heard from him again. More than him taking the money, more than him leaving. It was like she didn't exist to him anymore, and so that was her real pain. She just pinned it on that one thing because it was easy to pin on that one night. For him, it was, I did this horrible thing. I left my one family I ever had, this one person, which is why he's so desperate to keep the Lilies together, because that's his family now. And he's like, we can't let Candy leave because she's family. We can't do this because it's family, and they're like, dude, you know what I mean? So I wanted to put the pain or that Black moment into context, and say, yeah, we do stupid things when we're young. We're a little older now. You're sorry. Let's move on. So let them find their way back to the friendship, and then let that friendship take the course that it was going to take if they hadn't had that night happen. You know what I mean? So they were obviously, like, she obviously had a huge crush on him that he didn't know about. He had a thing for her that he didn't know he had. Right? So he's like, there were moments in the flashbacks where he's like, I shouldn't be looking at her like that. She's like a sister to me. You know what I mean? But he's clearly like falling for her and doesn't realize that he is, because he's so unfamiliar. They're both so unfamiliar with the concept of love familial love, any kind of love, they haven't been touched by it that much. So when they see it in each other, they don't recognize it.
Oh, wow, that's interesting. I never thought about that. Wow.
Yeah. And I think that's why Tony, even with Yvette, she doesn't understand why Yvette is so giving and loving with her. You know what I mean? Like, why are you letting me stay in your why are you feeding me at the diner? Like, why are you doing this? And it's like, because you're an awesome person, you're really cool, and I love you, you're my friend. Like, she doesn't get that. And Seb doesn't get that people love him without him giving or doing things for them. So he goes above and beyond to do things for the Lilies, for Candy, that he really shouldn't be doing. He's so like, I care about this person and I have to take care of her and it's my job. Like, he takes it on as a job. So I wanted to get that whole concept of self-love, of like self-respect and self-love, and the pain that they dealt with, and then let them come out of that and then into something that's brighter. I don't know if that answers your question. But.
No, absolutely. That was helpful, because like I said, I really related to kind of their relationship, and it felt very solid, very real, very much like, here are kind of the ins and outs and ups and downs that you might experience, particularly like that sort of teenage love, right? Like,
yeah,
it's like, well,
you
what
don't
am I
know
supposed
what's
to
going
do?
on.
You have no
Like,
idea.
Hormones, and like, they spend most of their time together, and they were like the odd kids out
Yeah.
at school. And so like, they really, and so it's like, is that just friendship, or is it like a familial thing? Like, what is happening here? And before they had a chance to really explore it,
Yeah,
they get split apart, right? So
yeah, absolutely. I'd love to talk about some of the kind of supporting characters. We put like kind of book discussion questions as we're reading along, and one of the questions that we posed was sort of, what are your favorite kind of supporting characters? And I know two stuck out that I can remember, one of which is Jordan. And for the folks who may not remember, Jordan's the attorney for the Lilies. And then
Seb's
Elton, yes, and Seb's best friend. And then Elton, I think his name was Elton. He's the owner. Yes, okay.
Yeah.
He's the owner of the bar where Tony kind of does her gigs, the local bar. And so
Electric Unicorn.
that's what it was. Yes. And so folks were talking about how they sort of liked their characters. I think Elton mostly because he just took such good care of Tony, and like really, said, hey, you're great. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you're so talented. Like, get out there and sort of do something, and don't feel shy. And then Jordan, because he, sort of, I think, helped mold some of the craziness that was going on when Candy was there, and kind of keeping everybody a little bit on track. So I'm curious as to, because there's a number of kind of supporting characters. So I'm curious how you got to decide, how you got to the decision about, okay, which characters do you want to put in there along the way, and kind of what their different goal, what their purposes might be, throughout the book.
Yeah. Let me start with Tony's people. So everybody in Tony's world became her family that she never got, and even if she doesn't really realize it. So Elton is like the father she never had. Yvette is like the mother / sister she never had. And she doesn't see them as that, but those are the roles that they stepped into. Like, Elton is very much like, let me give you a little extra money in your paycheck. Let me give you like whatever you need, and let me point you in the right direction, like all that stuff. And she appreciates everything he does for her, and she loves him, and she just doesn't see that because she has no reference for it.
Yeah.
And with Yvette, Yvette's just basically like taking her under her wing, you know what I mean? And she appreciates her for that. So I wanted to give that family to her the way I gave it to Seb, because Seb got the Lilies and she got those guys. I didn't want her to be completely alone and like bereft at the beginning, so she's like, oh my gosh, people want to talk to me, and fell into the Lilies' lap. Like, I wanted her to be independent of that, saying like, I don't need you guys. I have my own life, which she does. Like, she has her own dreams of owning the studio. She has her own people and everything. So she didn't need to go to the Lilies. I wanted her to choose to go to the Lilies, and then on the Lilies side, and also Elton, I lived in the UK for a while. I spent a lot of time there when I was touring, and so I just love Brits. And I've known so many pub owners like Elton. Like, he's just an amalgamation of like all the pub owners I've known in the UK who are like that, and just talk. They're not musicians. They can't like carry a tune in a bucket, but they know everything about music. They know every like liner note, like everybody who played on everything. It's so crazy. And so you're just like, oh, okay, you don't just love music, you love music.
Right.
So he's that guy. And then initially Jordan was the son of a famous musician, but I took that out because I don't want to get too like, too much nepotism there. But he's just one of those people that you call in. He's like the cavalry. Like, Seb in trying to take care of everything and juggle all these balls, even he didn't know how to juggle, he made a mess of the contract and everything else, and the candy situation. So, and he's like, he's known Jordan for a while, but he never called him in to take care of this, which he should have. He needed a real entertainment attorney instead of some dude they found, on Google. And so he finally brings him in to save the day. And Jordan's like, man, oh, wait, my phone just went, how can I help? No, Google, I don't need you.
That's funny.
So great. Like whisper around these things.
You're like, I'm fine, Google.
Yeah. So yeah, he finally brings him in. He's like, why didn't you bring me in before? I could have stopped all of this from happening. But if he had, then maybe Tony wouldn't be in the picture. So we're happy that everything sort of went bad. But yeah, so he comes in and he's just like, it's funny because he's one of those characters that is all business when it's business and just loves to have a good time. So like when he's in the office, Seb knows that like you can't joke around, you can't play around, like this is business, you know. And then when they're at the bar, it's like a totally different person, like right after that, you know what I mean? So I wanted to give him a sounding board that wasn't one of the girls, and sort of somebody to lean on a little bit, somebody he can realize that he can lean on, because he's still trying to be Mr. Independent.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the bit of a train wreck that's Candy.
A bit.
Every time she showed up, I was like, oh gosh, please just don't mess it up. Please don't mess it up.
Who's got a lot to say? What are you going to say?
I'm sorry, were you saying something about Candy?
Exactly. That's exactly. I had it scribbled right on my notepad with an asterisk. We need to talk about Candy, because Candy was definitely an attention spoiled rich brat. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Candy is an interesting character because in the first iteration of the book, she was much worse.
How?
Yeah.
How was that possible?
My editor was like, maybe lighten up a little bit. And I was like, okay, yeah, she is, okay. I'm going to talk about Candy because I love Candy. I wrote Candy. She is a really, of all of them in this universe, her and two other people I won't mention because it's spoiler, are really, 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 really damaged. And Candy's damage is that I was writing this during a period where I was talking about money and wealth distribution and sort of stuff. And I was like, I've known people who have nothing, and I've known people who have like all the things in the world, and they can be in the same boat emotionally and like, spiritually and everything else. She's been given everything that we all think we want, like all the money, all the clothing, all the trips and but she's the most lonely, damaged, neglected person. She really doesn't recognize love and care when she sees it because she's never had it. So Seb saying to her, I'm here for you, for her, it doesn't even register. Like, when they say we're trying to help you, that doesn't register. In that meeting, the band meeting that they have, all she sees is attack, disapproval, blah, blah, blah. She doesn't see anything about care and nurturing in there because that's not something that she's familiar with. So her thing is to lash out. She lashes out and she acts out and does things, and she's just really self-loathing. She's a lot of self-loathing going on, and it continues for a while in the series. Working on book 2 now, and she's a big part of it. So she has these moments where she's like, there's a moment in the cafe when she's talking to Seb, when she recognizes that maybe he's not trying to like attack her or destroy her or whatever, and then you see her mask slip a little bit, and then it goes right back up. Like every time she feels a little bit of vulnerability, she either like puts it right back up, or she does something so outrageous and awful that people are like, oh, they just throw up their hands and walk away, kind of thing. So yeah, she's a mess. She is a hot mess, and she does some horrible things, which she'll never be completely redeemed. I know that. But I have to find a way to bring her some peace.
Yeah.
The series.
Yeah.
Which I'm still working out. But I mean, there are people, you see them on, TMZ that have been caught in that cycle for decades. You know? And there's 2 ways out.
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep her from one way. Trying to pull her back over to this way. So. I actually wanted to know, to get a lot more of her story. Yeah.
She's asking a question.
Ashley's asking, are we getting a lot more of her story in book 2? She is a big part of the story in book 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, because as the band gets bigger, I don't know if this is too much of a spoiler, but we're all friends. Of course, the label owners, these new label owners, at least one of them, the twin brothers, one of them is just in it for. Sorry, my husband is in the back. It just came around the back of the house. He's peering. Yeah. I think it's locked. You have to come around. That was creepy.
That's gonna make its way into the series somehow.
Totally going into the series. He may not have the code to get in here. That's so funny.
No worries.
But so Candy, they like the drama because the drama brings ratings and press coverage, and all of that gives them, money. Like people will buy stream the songs and do whatever. So they like the drama, and with her out of the band, there's less drama. So of course they want to keep her around, or I should say he wants to keep her around. And so she's got her own band.
Yeah. So
he's got his,
now he's got to say hi. I mean, come on.
They're saying you have to say hi now.
So when this makes its way into the book, I can say I was there when she got the inspiration. Hello.
They're saying
hi.
Hi. He can't hear you because
Oh.
He was hiking or something. I don't know. He's all nature boy. I'm not. But yeah, so she'll be around as a foil.
Got it.
But also because they are going to be in the same sort of circuit, she'll have an opportunity for interventions every once in a while from people who still care about her. They're angry with her, but they all still care.
Yeah. So I'd love to talk a little bit about kind of the Lilies as a group, right? Yeah. I really like the way in which they, even though there are a number of them, and you didn't have the opportunity to get into the deep backstory of all of them, obviously, but I did like how they really had their different personalities, and they really had their, unique skill sets, and how that meshed, right? Like sometimes the relationship was kind of like they're kind of being sarcastic and they're kind of talking about each other, but you can tell it's all comes from love, right?
Yeah.
So I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about how, as you're figuring out what the band looks like and the different members and their personalities. You talked a little bit about Lily and how, you came to write her and your kind of inspiration there, but I'm curious about some of the other bandmates, how you got to them and what was important to you as far as showing through in the different personalities.
Yeah, well, a lot of it came from working with musicians and being in bands myself. So like, there's always like the class clown, there's always like the super serious one, there's always like the creative mad genius. There's like archetypes, and so I wanted to give a little bit of that in this group. Lily is the boss of everyone.
Yes, for sure.
Including Jordan and Seb and everyone else. And everyone is a little bit scared of her.
Yeah.
Her book is last in the series. Kayla's is next, and then Tiff. Kayla's the drummer, Tiff's the bass player is book 3, and then Lily's book 4. Because she's the most enigmatic character of the group. Yeah. And she is sort of their spine. She's like, she puts her foot down with the label. She puts, she's like the one that they all lean on. So yeah, I wanted her to be a bit remote and a bit removed and a bit aloof, but she also cooks for them all. And
I know.
Like, what I mean? So she that's her love language is like care, She may not say much, but she does. She does things. And then you have Tiff, who is just like the bass player. Tiff is the class clown. She's always joking, she's always like ribbing people and stuff. She's also quick tempered, but only there's a huge moment in book 2 that I can't wait for people to read because she really loses it. And it's so wild to see because she's always the one that's like, what I mean? So when she really goes off, she goes off. There's some really nice moments between her and Kayla in the second book. Kayla is our Miss Perfectionist. She is very, very different from Tony in that she came from a background that's somewhat privileged, but also a whole family. Her parents are still together, but her mom is she's like a tiger mom kind of. She's like, everything must be perfect. young ladies do this, Kayla's super smart. She's like, you must achieve this, you must do this. This is how things are done. And it really messes with her to the point where now everything has to be perfect. Like she's the one that drives them to rehearse all the time. Like let's do another take in the studio. Like, and everybody's like, dropping dead from exhaustion. She's like, no, let's go again. They're like, oh my gosh, like, what do you want? She's like the perfectionist. So yeah, I wanted to have like those different types of people that I've worked with in music and seen in music in this band. And bands are families, when you see these bands, especially the ones who've been around for like 20, 30 years, it's like, man, how do you guys stick together? Because so many bands fall apart because of personalities and egos and whatever. But you spend a lot of time together on the road, on the bus, on the plane, the car, in the hotel, whatever it is, you're spending all this time with these people. And after a while, you start to like, oh, why do you brush your teeth like that? It's the same as being like, in a relationship. It's like you get onto each other's nerves, but also if anybody messes with you, you're right there to, So I wanted to show that dynamic, and so you get those quick sort of exchange dialogue things happening when people are ribbing each other and finishing each other's sentences and all kinds of stuff. Like, yeah, I love writing. Those are my favorite scenes to write, are the group scenes.
Yeah, I love those. I love those. I love how it was almost like a game of like double dutch, where like Tony was like there and she was like, okay, I think I have an opening. I think I can. And so I really like that dynamic, because she kind of started off as really nervous and like, oh, I don't really know how I'm going to fit in, to like, feeling like it was part of her family. And so it was exciting to see her kind of finally get that thing she'd been missing for so long.
That scene, or those scenes when she's like giving input to the Lilies, is sort of parallel to the scene in the studio that she has in the beginning of the book, where she gives her input and it all just goes to hell. And so she's like, she's sort of torn, because she knows she's got this talent, she knows she's good, she knows she's right in the studio, but do you say something? And if you do say something, what are the consequences? When you're working with people like the Jerry Gant and the guy, and she's like, okay, do I just shut up? Like, what do I do? You know what I mean? So now here she is again in this other situation and different people, but like, do I say something? Do I not say, So she's still, she's still gaining her confidence into like, yes, I'm right. I should say so. I should speak up, because we want this to be good, right? And if I say something, it's going to improve us. But are they open to hearing it? You know what I mean? So she's again, just feeling her way around in there.
Yeah. Hey, Miranda, I saw Miranda and Margaret joined us. Hello, guys. I wanted to give you guys a chance to, if you guys had questions, I want to give you a chance to kind of hop in, because I know our time is short.
The sun is like right across my face.
Miranda, if you're talking, we can't hear you. I think you're on mute.
Oh, how do I do that?
Oh, there you are, Margaret. You're on. We hear you now.
There we go.
Okay. Hi.
I just wanted to say I haven't read the book yet. I've been having a lot of trouble with visual issues. I've been wanting to do audiobook on it, but I feel like that's not the same. What'd you say?
The audio is so good. I handpicked the actors for it.
Wow.
And
okay.
I've worked with the male narrator Alex Sandiz on a couple of my other books, and so I wrote Seb with his voice in my head.
Wow.
Tamika I'd never worked with before, but they sent me like 5 actresses to listen to, and as soon as I heard like her say 3 words, I was like, that's Tony. So I highly do recommend listening to the audio.
Okay, I'll read the I'll listen to the audiobook. I really want to read it so bad, and I've been wanting to read so many books. It's just I'm having this weird vision issue that apparently I've had my whole life. It's just gotten a lot worse, where like I don't have depth perception, and I'll read with one eye forward and the other eye kind of going like this off toward my temple, and they alternate. It's called alternating exotropia. So I'm really struggling with even reading just short articles on National Geographic. I'll really have trouble. So I'm struggling with reading, and it's really hard because I love to read. I have so many books, like it's not even funny. Like books are piling up, and I really want to read your book. And is Xio?
Xio.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I was saying it right. Thank you. But thank you for writing this amazing novel and this coming of age, and for writing such an amazing, like, from what it sounds, from what everything I've read about it, I've read a lot of reviews and stuff, and it sounds like it's got a lot of musical talk in it, and it talks a lot about the musical aspect, and I think that's so cool. Like, so many authors don't touch on the, like, musical stuff, and I'm learning a lot about music lately, and like learning how to
cool.
play guitar and stuff. So
Oh, nice.
that's really cool to me, like, to be able to play into some of the stuff that I've been learning.
Yes, the music is a huge aspect of it. I don't know if you guys know this, but the Lilies are like a real musical. Well, to me, but they
They're
have
a real
music.
band.
They're a real band. We have music on Spotify and iTunes, all that stuff. You can find it on like TikTok and Instagram. Like if you look for the music thing, you can search for the Lilies. They have an Instagram
Oh,
account.
really
You
cool.
can go to the Lilies website. The Electric Unicorn has a website. Like I tried to build a whole like universe for this.
A
For this movie.
soundscape.
Yeah, yeah. I want it to be, I call it versatile too, right? I want it to be as real in real world as possible for this, so people can interact
Yeah.
with the band and stuff like that.
My husband reads a lot of fanfic where they'll do
I write fanfic. That's how I got
oh
started.
yeah.
Yeah, that's how I got started writing. Yeah.
Oh, cool. My husband reads a lot of fanfic of different kinds, where they'll do like an entire like sound one where there's a lot of musical
Oh,
references to
yeah.
songs and stuff. So he learns a lot of music, and I learned therefore from him a lot of music that we wouldn't have necessarily come across on our own.
Yeah.
And it's
yeah.
really cool. Like, we pick up on artists that we love and we would have never found by ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. A lot of authors are doing playlists with their books now too. I always have.
Yeah,
so
that's what I'm
glad
talking
that's
about.
catching on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. And the playlist for the Lilies, there's a couple, but it has the Lilies on it, which is kind of fun.
Oh,
Oh, cool.
cool. Yeah, I see the Hurt You song towards the back
Yeah.
of the book here. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm
Okay.
hoping that people will like start playing it and doing videos so I can see like different versions of it. That would be so cool. That's like my
That
dream.
would be epic. That would be absolutely epic.
It would.
That would be cool. I got to get some musical talent first.
I've always done singing and choir and stuff growing up. So, like, for me, that's where my background really lies, is in singing.
Very cool.
And it's so cool to be able to talk to you, Xio. Like, it's so cool to be able to talk to like such an accomplished author. And thank you, Antoinette, for letting us for arranging this. That's just so cool.
Oh, absolutely. This is, oh, and I was going to tell you, Ashley said the audio was fantastic, and that's in all caps. So
I thought so too, Ashley. Thank you. I can text Alex and say, hey, they like the audio.
Absolutely. So I'd love to know when we can expect like the rest of the series. Like, do we have dates? Is it not quite in the works yet, or anything you can tell us, we'll take.
I'm still working on book 2, but I'm pretty sure it'll be out next year. So it'll be out in 2022.
Yay!
My guess is that it'll be like 22, 23, 24, but we'll see what happens with like the world and everything. Because I know there's like
as it builds.
Yeah, like the publishing industry is going through a real problem with printing right now. There's because a lot of printers closed down during the pandemic, like whatever.
Right.
So, like, there's all kinds of stuff happening. People were getting stuff printed in Europe and shipped over here. I mean, who knows what's going on, but I'm pretty sure the book 2 is coming out next year. Probably not till late summer. I think it says March 1st. I don't know why that date is there, because there's no basis in reality.
They're trying to press you, like, come on, Xio, we need the book.
Well, I think the cover got leaked early. Right, yeah. I think the cover got leaked early, and I think they just slapped the date on it. So
Got it.
But I love the cover. Did you guys see the cover for The Girl with
I think I saw it on Amazon.
Yeah, yeah. That's Kayla. Big red curly hair and freckles. No, for I don't have my
For next one. So actually, I think it was Amazon where I saw it, because at first I thought it was already out, and I was like, wait, she has another the second book out already?
I thought that too.
No, yeah, they here it is. Here we go. See if I can show it to you on my phone. See that?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
That's the one I saw. Yep. It does.
Yeah,
look
I
really
saw
good.
that too, because it looked like the same art style.
Yeah, that's our little drummer girl, Kayla.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Was it the same artist as you said? There was the same artist for the. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see what they do with 3 and 4 too, especially. Isn't that cool? Thank thank you, Ashley. I thought so too. Like
Yeah.
they,
So-
you know,
Yeah, I
they're really
agree,
good.
Ashley.
My publisher's been really good about like covers and titles and stuff, because the original title for the book was Celebrity Skin,
Mhm.
and then we realized that it was a little bit. It sounded more like high heat contemporary than what it ended up being. So
Mhm.
I'm saving that title for something else. But
Oh,
like
okay.
we went back and forth about different titles and what the cover would look like. We did like different mock-ups and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, I really like this one, or, you know. And then they asked me for like my inspirations, because I keep like a folder of images for character inspirations of people and stuff. So I send that to them and say, this is what in my mind they look like, and that's exactly what she looks like. You know, the big hair. I was like, she's just missing the freckles, but freckles don't show up in that. But yeah, like they're really great, really, really great about the art direction there.
Wow. Wonderful, wonderful. Any other questions, or Zio, if there's anything that I know sometimes like we don't ask the things, but you're like, man, I really wanted to talk about X. Anything before we adjourn for the day?
No, I
I have a
think.
question.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Okay, so Zio, my question to you is the guitar. I found it very interesting how you kind of bought that guitar and it kind of followed from Tony's mother to Tony to her, yeah, to the dad, and still towards the end. What made you, what made you do that? What made you, I mean, I really kept an eye on that guitar, and kid you not, I was up. I really wanted to finish the book. I was like at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. My husband's like, "What are you doing?" I creeped downstairs, and I kid you not. And I'm reading, and I didn't even realize I had been reading for 2 hours. It was such a page turner. But I really want to know about that guitar.
Okay, so the guitar is real, but I have a different model. So my father, like I said, is a songwriter. So he wrote some of his bigger hits on two instruments. He had a 1967 Gibson ES 355, which is a slightly different. It's like the cousin model to the one that Tony had, and a Fender, a 70 Fender Rhodes keyboard. He at some point when he downsized was going to sell or do something with him, and I swooped in and took him. So I have like, so you have the pin on Antoinette, which is actually that's the guitar that Tony plays, the 335. It's a really famous guitar. It's used a lot in jazz, but also in rock. And my dad's was the 355, and I have it. I call it Cherry, and I've always called it Cherry since I was a little girl, because it's cherry red. And so, and most of the musicians I know, myself included, almost all of their instruments have names, and some like, the story of where you got it and like all that stuff, So, especially these older guitars, they have huge backstories usually. So I wanted to give that kind of a legacy instrument to Tony.
That's really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love that. It was so incidental. I had no idea this was like a similar model, and I was like, oh my god, these are the cutest things ever.
Oh, I freaked out when I saw the pin for the box. I was like, oh my god! I actually got some. I found some on like Amazon or something. I was like, here they are. So, but my dad, I was taking pictures of the book with his guitar. Yeah. And then when the book came out, I gave away a replica of Tony's guitar, an actual guitar.
No
because it's
way.
a really popular, famous model. So other guitar companies make an ES 335 style. Wow. So I found one that I could afford to give away, cherry red and everything. And so I was like, this is so cool. People were actually picking up on the guitar, because I think Minx is like another character, and she is another character going forward.
Ooh.
Like Minx is like Tony's legacy, right? Like she carried her on the bus as a 12-year-old, from one place to another, and that's why it's so hard for her to give it up. Not just because it belonged to her mother, but because she's always known this guitar. It's always been in her life, right? So
yeah,
it's like it sounded like it was the only like constant in her life, and I can totally understand that from my childhood. Like we were constantly moving, and the only thing I had constantly in my life as a friend or as a person other than my parents was my cousin, who was a Navy brat who always moved. So I can totally understand that. When she died of breast cancer in 2017, it was really hard.
Oh, I can imagine. So
sure.
But I still feel her around. She speaks to me through music, actually, kind of funny. She like when I'm having a hard day, like this one song that she was going to use in her wedding to her soulmate, which was almost which was 2 months shy of her wedding anniversary when she died, but her second wedding anniversary. But there was this one song, I think it's by Walk the Moon. It's called Shut Up and Dance. She was gonna use that to walk down the aisle to. It's like, shut up and dance with me. Yeah, this woman is my destiny. Yeah, that one. But anyways, that song will come on all the time, like when I'm having a hard time, or if I'm having a good day, or if I'm thinking about her, or just randomly, like really random, just to let me know she's there. And like my aunt and I keep her alive. Like we both had star fairies growing up. It was really cool.
Oh,
So I
wow.
understand like having a one constant growing up, like moving around a lot. So that's really why I wanted to read the book.
Yeah, well, I can't wait to hear what you think. But yeah, the guitar was her constant, and then her only other constant after that was Seb. And so when he split, you know, she had to leave the guitar behind when she left, which broke her heart. You know, that was, you know, that whole car drive of her driving back, you know, to get it. You know, it's like she knows how hard it's going to be, but she's not going to let that stop her. You know?
She's got to get back Minx. Come on.
Got to get Minx back. You know? And she's outraged when Mary shows up and is like, it's mine. She's like, the heck it is.
She's like, this is mine.
So did you have another question? I saw your hands go up for a second there. No? I thought Hazel had another question.
No, I'm good. I appreciate you. I'm thrilled. I'm super excited.
If you guys can indulge me, does everybody have a copy of their of this month's book? I'd love to do a quick picture.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I like how you're dancing with the book.
Yeah, I know, right? Like
page turner. This is definitely a page turner.
You know I had to come for the picture.
Of course, Ashley. We could not take it without you. Come on.
Can the dog be in it?
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
She always has a dog with her. I love that. I love it.
Cool.
I love it. All right. Margaret, you good to go?
Yes.
All right, we'll try to hold them up and I will do my best. All right. 1, 2, 3. Oh. There we go. Excellent. Well, Xio, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time, particularly given that you are on vacation.
Oh my God. Oh,
yes, I know. We're so thankful. This was so fun to talk about. This is such a fun book to talk about, to curate the box for, to like the drinks. Everything was so fun because you gave us really good material to work with. So
I wanted to say, if you guys can send Antoinette your mailing address, and I'll do signed book plates for you guys, and I'll send them out to you.
Oh, really?
Awesome.
Put in your book.
Okay. Thank you so much.
That would be it. And before you go though, you've got a book signing coming up because I saw it on IG. You want to tell folks what it is?
Oh yeah, I'm doing a book signing in Philadelphia at a Novel Idea on Passyunk Avenue on October 16th, and it's outdoors. It's at noon, so it's nice and socially safe.
October when?
16th, Saturday the 16th.
Okay.
From noon to 2, I think.
I'm
it's
sorry.
on my website.
Okay.
But yeah, if you guys are in the area, I'd love to meet you in person, or if you want me to sign your book there, it's cool too. And yeah, and check out the Lilies on Spotify and all that stuff. And
that I'm
funny,
definitely doing.
People, like if you do stories with your books or whatever, like you can find their, on Instagram stories, you can search for music, you can search for the Lilies and add it to your story.
No,
that is so cool.
I love that.
Is there music in the audiobook? Do they play music in the audiobook?
No, we didn't. No, because I didn't have it mastered by the time they did the audiobook really early. It was actually out a month early in Europe. It was so weird because they had the wrong date or whatever, and so they were like, "Can you do like a release date thing?" I was like, "In a month," and they were like, "No, now." Yeah, we'll have to coordinate to do something going forward with the other audio to see if we can get some music in there. Really cool.
Wonderful.
My husband said he hopes there's a movie.
Oh, he really. Oh,
no, that would be good. That would be good.
I think that would be best at like the end of the series, like so that you can see like a progression.
That would be good.
They can always get all 4 books,
There we go.
We could do one for each book.
There we go. Listen, think big, right?
Right. Yeah. Netflix series would be nice.
That would be
That'd
super
be
fun.
really cool.
I know. No, I think
Yeah,
folks
talk
would
about
really
that on
like that.
social media. I would love
Right,
to see
there we
that.
go. Listen, we need to start. We need to start like a petition, right? Like, let's get the world out there and be like, hey, we can Netflix, anybody,
Yeah,
Amazon
yeah,
Prime, who wants to pick it up?
You can also, you
HBO
can
Max.
also use us. You can also use us.
Yeah, you guys, I love readers have been amazing with this book. So thank you so much for if you posted, reviewed, suggested it to a friend. I really, really appreciate it. This is like,
Yeah,
Like I said, I've
totally.
been doing this this is my 7th year as a published author, but this is my first national in stores book. Like
Congratulations, that's big.
I almost
Yeah.
like broke into tears. I
Yay!
walked into like Barnes and Noble. My book was in the front of the store. I was with my husband. I was like, oh yeah. Like, that's not
I'd
something
feel
I
like
ever thought I'd
crying.
carry, or like Target. You know what I mean? Like that's just what?
That's
So,
amazing.
that's
Good.
That has to be
Thank you.
surreal.
It's very surreal. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Stuff like this is surreal. Like people want to sit around and talk about my characters that were in my head.
Practically part of your like how you work now. You probably have like this whole round of like people talking in your head.
Always. Yeah.
I do too. Like when I'm writing or when I'm thinking about like writing a short story or anything, I usually do poetry, but in journaling. But like when I'm writing, like I can totally hear the people talking in my head.
That's
This
great.
is how we work, right?
Very cool. And before we go, Xio, do you want to tell folks how to reach you on the socials?
Yeah, I'm a
Yeah.
social media butterfly, so I'm pretty much everywhere. I'm at Xio Axelrod on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and then you can find me Xio Axelrod on Facebook and xioaxelrod.com. Yeah, I'm always happy to hear from people and stuff. So yeah, reach out.
Excellent. Well, thank you again so much. Enjoy the rest of your vacation. Hopefully
Thank
you guys
you.
have really nice weather and your husband gets to be outside and maybe you can
He
like
is
be on the
outside.
inside or
Yeah.
I'm gonna pretend this is going a little longer. So I
right.
can see you.
Keep the screen up. Thanks
Thank
everyone
you,
for
Jen.
attending. Enjoy the rest of your
Bye.
weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.